Hello everyone, in today's video we will learn how to create amazing presentations in PowerPoint by using the Morph transitions. Let's look at the presentations we will create over the next few minutes. First, we will create an agenda slide with a transparent box that moves over each item one by one. Next, we will create this presentation where an arrow shape moves through the slide to anchor the presentation. After that, we will have a slide with 4 topics and create a floating effect as shown here. Then we will have a process slide where we will create a zoom in zoom out effect using the Morph transition. And in the end, we will see how to create this float in float out effect using Morph transition as well as the path animation. While creating these presentations, we will master the Morph transition, and along with that, I will share with you several tips and tricks that will make working with PowerPoint a breeze. I hope you're excited, and let's jump right into it. We will start off by creating an agenda slide with 5 points. And as we speak to the specific point, a transparent box will move over it. I have an agenda slide here which I got from the internet. If you want, you can use your own custom designed agenda slide, or if you want to work exactly on this slide, I have put the link in the description. To start off, I will create a rectangular box and give it a transparent color. To do that, I will go to the Insert tab, then Shapes, and select the shape I want. I'll go with the rounded corners rectangle. I will do a left click and drag my mouse to create the shape. I want to give this box the same color as the image at the bottom left over here. To do that, I will select the box, go to Shape Format, then Shape Fill, and select the eyedropper. With the eyedropper selected, I'll click anywhere in the target image. And this will give our box the same color. Next, I want to remove the outlines from my box. So I'll again select the box, go to Shape Format, and then I'll select No Outline. Next, I want to make this box slightly transparent. To do that, I will right-click on the box and select Format Shape. Under the Fill menu, I will see an option for transparency. I'll give it a transparency of 75%. And lastly, I would like to add some shadow to the shape, so I'll again select the shape, and in the formatting pane, I'll go to Effects, and under the shadow, I will give it a shadow of my choice. Now I will close the formatting pane. On the first slide, I want to put this box to the side such that the box is outside the canvas of the slide. To do that, I will first zoom out a little bit on the slide, and then I will drag the box outside of the canvas. With this setting, the box will not even appear in the slide when it's in the presentation mode. I will turn on the presentation mode by clicking this button over here, and you will see that the box is not even there. I'll press Escape to come out of the presentation mode. I will explain the reason for doing so in a minute. As a next step, I will create a copy of this slide. With the slide selected, I will press Ctrl D on my keyboard, and that will create a copy. On the second slide, I will put the box on top of the agenda point 1. So I'll drag the box over here and slightly enlarge it so that it covers the entire point. Let's go to presentation mode once again to see how these two slides look. There are 2 ways to turn on the presentation mode. One is to click the slideshow button over here, or other option is to press the F5 key on your keyboard. If we click the slideshow button at the bottom, it will present the current slide. With F5, PowerPoint will start the presentation from first slide. So in this case, let's press the F5 key on our keyboard and see how it looks. This is our first slide. And when I press the arrow key on my keyboard, it will move to the second slide. As we saw, there were some animations on the first slide which got repeated on the second slide. Let's get rid of them. To do that, I will press the escape key, go to my second slide, then go to the Animations tab and click Animation Pane. This will open an animation pane on the right, which will show all the animations that are there on the current slide. I will select all the animations and then press Delete. I will close the animation pane, press F5 to turn on the presentation mode. Now, if I move to the second slide, a box appears on the agenda point 1 and there is no other animation. Instead of having the box just simply appear on point 1, we want the box to float into the slide. To do that, I will first press the escape key on my keyboard to exit the presentation mode. Then with the second slide selected, I will go to the Transition tab and select the Morph transition. This will give the box a floating effect. Now let's turn on the presentation mode by pressing the F5 key. This is our first slide. Now, when I press the arrow key to go to the second slide, you will see that nothing else will move and only the box will float into our second slide. All in all, the Morph transition moves the shape from its old position to the new one. And that's why on the first slide, we place the transparent box outside of the slide canvas. And on the second slide, we placed it on top of agenda point 1 inside of the canvas. The Morph transition gave the effect of floating the box from outside to the inside. Now I will create 4 more copies of slide number 2. And on each slide, I will place the transparent box on top of subsequent agenda item. Since we created copies of slide 2, slide 3 to 6 will already have the Morph transition applied to them. You can check this by selecting any of the slide and then go to the Transition tab. I will press F5 to run the presentation and see how it looks. This is our slide 1. Now when I press the arrow key, I can press the down arrow or the right arrow key. It will move to the second slide, which shows a floating effect on the box. This is our third slide. This is the fourth slide where we can speak about the agenda point 3, then agenda point 4, and agenda point 5. So everything looks fine, but let's say I want to adjust the transition speed. I want to make the animation a little faster. To do that, I will select all the slides that have the transition applied, which is slide 2 to slide 6. Then I'll go to the Transition tab and reduce the duration to 1 second. Let's run the presentation again and see how it looks. As you might notice, the boxes are now moving faster since we have adjusted the duration of transitions. If you want to go to a previous point, you can press the left arrow key or the up arrow key. That will just move to the previous slide. As you can see, currently the box is moving only when we press the arrow key. If you want, you can also automate it such that PowerPoint will move to the next slide after a defined interval. To do that, I will select all the slides that have the Morph transition, which is slide 2 to slide 6. Then go to Transitions, and in the Advanced Slide option, I will uncheck the mouse click, and I will define the interval after which I want the box to move to the next item. Let's put 5 seconds for now. Again, I'll press F5 to go to the presentation mode. And here you'll see that the box will automatically move to the next point after 5 seconds. Now let's apply the same technique to another situation. Imagine a slide with a lot of text, like this one. If the presenter plainly speaks to the slide, it's very easy to lose the audience's attention, as listeners might not be able to keep track of which point the presenter is talking about. A trick will be to use an arrow that moves across various elements of the slide, like this one. As the presenter speaks to a specific point on the slide, they can move the arrow to that point. As you might have guessed, we will apply the same approach as we did in the first exercise. Instead of using a transparent box, we will use an arrow shape. I have the base slide here. First, we will need to put in an arrow shape. You can insert an arrow by going to the Insert tab, then go to Shapes and select the arrow of your choice. I have a custom arrow designed, so I will use that. Again, feel free to download this presentation from the link provided if you want to use the exact same shapes. On the first slide, I will keep the arrow out of the main canvas of the slide, similar to how we did in the first exercise. Now let's create a copy of the slide. I will select slide 7 and press Ctrl D, and that will give me a copy. On the new slide we created, let's remove any animations so they are not duplicated. I'll go to the Animations tab, then Animation Pane, select all the animations and press Delete. Now I will close the animation pane and bring the arrow to the first point. Now let's run the presentation from slide 7 and see how it looks. This is our first slide, or slide 7. Now when I press the right arrow key or the down arrow key, an arrow will appear. Now I'll press the escape key, and on slide number 8, I will add the morph transition. As a result, the arrow will float into the slide. Also, I will reduce the duration of transition so the animation is a little faster. Let's have a look again. Go to slide 7. And when I press the down arrow key, the arrow comes in. Similar to how we did earlier, I will create 5 copies of this slide and place arrows on different positions on each one of them. Since we were copying slide number 8, slides 9 to 13 will already have the morph transition applied to them. So I will go to slide 7 and run the slideshow from here. Now, when I jump to the next slide, the arrow will float in. And as I keep moving to the new slides, the arrow will move to the new positions. And when presenting, I will move the arrow near to the point which I am speaking about. Now let's work on a slightly different case. Imagine you have a slide with 4 topics, and each topic has a brief description. As you speak to each of the topics, you want to dive into more details. An effective approach will be to float each of the points as shown here. And once we are done with the final one, we can bring all the topics on the same slide again. The morph transition can help us achieve this type of effect as well. Let's see how. I have the base slide here. Note that this slide has several elements. It has an apple shape, a title box, a white circle shape, and inside of that white circle it has another text box. We want all of these elements to float together as one object. Therefore, we will need to group them together. To do that, we will first need to select all the elements that we want to be grouped. We can do that by holding the Control key and then selecting each element one by one. Alternatively, we can just draw a big area around the shapes that we want to be selected. Once all the shapes are selected, right-click on any one of them and then select Group. Alternatively, you can also use the shortcut Ctrl G. I will repeat it with the other shapes as well. Now let's create a copy of this slide. I will select slide 14 and press Ctrl D. In fact, let's create 3 to 4 copies. I think we will ultimately need them. We want the presenter to speak about these topics one by one. Therefore, on the first slide after the initial base slide, which is slide 15 in my case, I will place topic 1. Then on slide 16, I will place topic 2 and so on. So I'll first go to slide 15 and get rid of the 3 topics, and for this one I will place it somewhere on the right, and I'll repeat the same step for slide 16, 17 and 18. With the help of the sidebar, try to make sure these shapes are in the same line. This gives a consistent look to the animation. For each of the topics, also let's add some detailed commentary which presenter will speak about. I have some dummy text which I will use. You can use any text of your choice. The purpose is to ensure you get the concept of how the presentation works. Let's see how the presentation looks in the current stage. This is our first slide of this section, that is slide 15 and 16, 17 and 18. Currently, the slides are jumping from one to another in a normal way. We want to give these apples a floating effect. Take an example of slide 15 and 16. When we move from slide 15 to 16, I want the blue apple to float out towards the top right and the second apple to float in from the bottom. To achieve this effect, I will make a copy of the second apple by pressing Ctrl C, and I will put it on the first slide, but I will place it outside the canvas towards the bottom right on the first slide. Likewise, I will make a copy of the first apple and put it on the second slide, and again place it outside the canvas towards the top right side. Now let's add a morph transition to both of these slides and see how they look. Let's start the presentation mode from slide 14. This is our first slide of this section. When I want to speak about topic 1, I will jump to the next slide. Once topic 1 is finished, I will press an arrow key one more time to go to topic number 2. And it looks like a very good animation. I will repeat the same for the rest of the slides. I will add morph transition to slides 17 and 18. And now let's see how it looks in the presentation mode. When I move from topic 4 to the final slide, there is no animation. I want all the topics to float into this slide. To achieve this effect, we will need copies of all the topics on slide 18. We already have topics 3 and 4 on slide 18. Therefore, we will copy topics 1 and 2 from slide 19 and paste them onto slide 18 outside of the slide canvas. Then I'll give slide 19 the morph transition as well, and it creates a very nice floating effect. Morph transition can also be used to focus on certain areas of a specific slide. Imagine this slide which shows an overview of a process. With the morph transition, we can create a zoom in, zoom out effect like this one. This helps bring the audience's focus on the specific point that the presenter is discussing. Let's go ahead and create this presentation. As usual, we will start with the base slide. On this slide, we have quite a few text boxes and shapes. To create an effect that we just saw, we will need to enlarge this slide, and as we do so, we want all the elements on the slide to change in a proportionate way. Therefore, we will select all the elements on this slide except for the heading and group them together. I will increase the size of this group by clicking on any edge of this group and drag to make it bigger. You will see that the text boxes get distorted. This is not what we want, so I'll undo it. To fix this problem, we will copy the newly created group and paste it as a picture. So I'll select the group, press Ctrl C, and then paste it as picture. Now we have two instances of this shape. One is the picture and this one is the original group. I'll get rid of the original group and just place the picture on the slide. Now as I enlarge this picture, you will see that all the elements of the slide are increasing in a proportionate scale. I'll undo it for now, as this will be our first slide. Next, I will create a copy of this slide by pressing Ctrl D, and I will get rid of the main heading because we do not need it. Now on the second slide, I want the speaker to focus on point number 1. Therefore, I will hold the corner of the picture and drag it to make it large, such that point number 1 comes in focus on this slide. On the third slide, I want the focus to be on point number 2. So therefore, I will create a copy of the second slide that we just created. This is our third slide. And on the third slide, I will drag the picture down such that the focus is on point number 2. Note that whatever elements or portion of the picture is in the canvas of the slide, that will show up in the presentation. Portion of the picture outside of the canvas will not show up in the presentation mode. Let's see how it looks so far. So on slide 2 and slide 3, I will give a morph transition. And let's start from the first slide. So this is our first slide. As we move to the next one, the focus comes on the point number 1, then it comes on the point number 2. Now similarly, we will create one more copy, and on this slide, the focus should be on point number 3. So I'll place that point in the middle. And on the last one, the focus will be on point number 4. And just to give a good end, we will put a copy of slide number 1 at the end and give that a morph transition as well. So I'll turn on the presentation mode. So the first slide, as the speaker speaks about the point number 1, the slide moves or zooms into that one. Then it goes to point number 2, point 3, 4, and finally back to the summary. Finally, we will create this presentation where two shapes move in from opposite direction and then move out. Let's start with a blank presentation. First, I want to give my background a dark color. I will right-click anywhere on the slide and select Format Background, and then select color of my choice. Next, let's insert the logo and the like button that we want to float on our slide. We want the logo to float in from the right side and the like button to float in from the left side. Therefore, on the first slide, we will place both of these shapes outside of the canvas of the slide. We will place the logo on the right side and the like button on the left side of the canvas. Now we will create a copy of this first slide, and on this one, we will bring both of these shapes into the middle. And on the last slide, we want the logo to move or float towards the left and the like button to float towards the right. Let's give both slide number 2 and slide number 3 a morph transition, and then we see how it looks. Looks great. Before we finish this video, I want to emphasize that these floating effects can also be achieved by another method, and that method is by using the path animation. In my opinion, morph transition is much easier to use, especially when you have multiple floating effects on the same object. But let me show you briefly how we could have achieved this effect with the second option. I will delete the slide number 1 and slide number 3 and only go with this slide which has both the objects on the same slide. I will get rid of any transition because this time we will be using animation. First of all, I will place these objects outside of the canvas So I'll drag the logo towards right and the like button towards the left of the canvas. I will press Ctrl F1 on my keyboard to open the ribbon. I think we will be using that a lot, especially when working with animations. Now I will select the logo and go to the animation tab and select the motion path. We can select any type of motion path here. We can create a custom one as well. But to keep this example simple, I'll go with the straight line. Once I select the path animation, PowerPoint creates a line on the shape with a green and a red dot. The green dot indicates the start position. The red dot is the end position. With this animation, the shape will move from the green dot to the red one. We want to float the logo into the middle of the slide. So I will drag the red dot into the middle of the canvas. As a next step, I want to float this object out of the slide towards the left side. To do this, I will again select the logo shape, and this time I will select Add Animation. With this option, PowerPoint will add a new animation in addition to the one we have already added. This time as well, I will go with the line path. As you can see, now we have two animations on our shape. The first animation takes the shape from right of the canvas to the middle. And the second animation is taking the shape slightly downwards. So for the green dot of the second animation, I will align it to the end point of the first animation because this is where we want the second animation to start. And for the red dot of the second animation, I will put it to the left side of the canvas because this is where we want the animation to end. I will repeat the same with the like button. So first I will add a line animation and drag it into the middle. Then I will select the shape, add an animation. And for the second animation, the starting point will be the end point of the first one. And the red dot will be on the right side. Let's see how it looks. As I press the next button, the logo floats in and then it floats out. And then the like button floats in and it floats out. We need to align the timing of the animations so that both the logo and the like button float in at the same time. And then upon pressing the arrow key a second time, they should float out simultaneously as well. To do that, I will first open the animation pane. We have 4 animations here. The first 2 animations, called Picture 3, are animations related to the logo. The last 2 animations are associated with the like button. The first animation takes the logo from the right side of the canvas to the middle, and the second one takes the logo from the center of the slide to the left side. Similarly, the third and fourth animations move the like button from left to middle and then ultimately to the right of the canvas. We want to float in both shapes together. Therefore, I will reorder the animations. I will drag the third animation to the second step. Now I will right-click on the second animation and select Start with Previous. And I will do the same with the fourth animation. Now let's have a look at how it shows up in the presentation mode. So they both float in together, and now when I press the next arrow, they both float out together as well. The good thing about the path animation is that you have several options to customize it. Select the drop-down arrow next to any animation and select Effect Options. A new window will open up. Here we can do several customizations. For example, we can add a bouncy end, we can add some after animation effects, or on the timing tab we can tweak the speed of the animations. I will add a bouncy end to the first 2 animations. And now let's see how it looks. And there we go. We have a nice looking bouncy effect. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. I will see you in the next tutorial.